All right, buddy. See you.
And now for our feature presentation.
He'll be fire on the mountain.
JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
Line drive right field, base hit. South Carolina wins the College World Series.
Watson, touchdown! Hunter Renfrow.
He got him, and it's all over. Once Carolina rules the roost, they win the championship. And South Carolina has won the national championship.
The Senegal baseball team has done it again, but this time the Bulldogs beat one of the top teams in the country. They are giant killers. Get the ball to Bennett. He does.
Gamecocks are in the Final Four.
All right, greetings and a good Monday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, and driven by our friends and yours at Stokes Volkswagen. Find them at stokesvw.com. Find us on the JB and Goldwater app. You can download that. It's free in your phone. You can watch and listen to our program from anywhere in the world, and we certainly appreciate all of you that do. Make sure you follow us across all social media platforms at JB and Goldwater, and individually at Sports Media JB and at Darren Goldwater. Text line, it's open, 843-321-8893, 843-321-8893, and you can also send us a message via any chat room that you've got, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, wherever, and we'll pop it up on the screen just like Clint and Craig have already done so today on this Monday afternoon. Plenty to get to, obviously, in college baseball. The Gamecock season ended yesterday with that 3-2 loss against the Virginia Cavaliers. We've got football. Visits are starting, and it will be steady and heavy over the next few weeks across the country. So we're going to get you caught up on some of that. Wes Mitchell's going to join us today at 1:05 and tell us what's going on in Columbia. Saw a lot of those kids up there, as a matter of fact, this weekend. So we're looking forward to that. Colin Taylor at 12:30 today on the present, the past, and the future of Carolina baseball. Coming off of the regional loss this weekend. We'll get to some Julio Jones. We've got some hoop stuff to get to. So it's going to be a busy day. But first and foremost, good afternoon to my long-lost friend, Darren Goldwater.
Man, how's your voice doing? It's like the first college football game of the season after a regional, huh? You're just back here getting through the day.
Yeah, exactly. This is
It's par for the course, man. That's the way it goes. You were up there doing your part as a Gamecock fan. And, I'd say this, that Saturday night game, those fans acquitted themselves nicely. That place looked like it was a fantastic atmosphere for baseball. Just a shame you didn't win that one. You didn't win the one after that either.
Yeah, I mean, no, they didn't. And that was the old days of Carolina baseball is what it was. Hey, Joe, it was nice to meet you too, man. Nice to meet you. I really appreciate you popping in to say hello. Very kind, certainly. Yeah, it was that's what it used to be like every day in Columbia. That's what it used to be like, certainly in the postseason. The postseason is home in Columbia. Columbia is a staple of college baseball in June and has been for, forever. They were hosting regionals long before the run under Coach Tanner. And so it was a really great atmosphere. It was a great atmosphere all weekend. Both Old Dominion and Virginia, I didn't really talk much to any of the Jacksonville folks, but ODU and UVA brought great fan bases with them. Really great people. Matter of fact, Virginia's squad was staying in the hotel that I was at. So I talked to a couple of their players, nice kids, great kids. And it was it was a wonderful environment, but it didn't work out for the Gamecocks. Just couldn't get a couple big hits when they needed them. And that's been the story pretty much throughout this season. For South Carolina baseball. Matter of fact, I've got some interesting notes that go all the way back to 2000 on how historically bad the offense has been the last couple of full years. I don't count 2020. They only played 16 games. There's no reason to count all that. You got to look at it from a full lens perspective, and you can't do it. So it's been pretty bad offensively. They're going to have to find a way to fix it moving forward. But nonetheless, yeah, Darren, it was a good weekend. And I do think, though, on national TV, it was nice to see it there again. There will be some type of impact on that in the future, but I know folks are frustrated based on those one-run losses.
Have you heard anything? And I looked around. I haven't seen anything, but Carolina's out. TCU's out. So who's getting the super regional, and will the NCAA open that thing back up potentially to allow for a bidding process so we don't have a neutral site super?
That question I don't have the answer to. I did hear when I was up there yesterday that there is the potential for ODU or Virginia, whoever wins this sucker in Columbia, to maybe host one in Columbia. Personal preference here, I would, if I was South Carolina, although I'm sure there's some perks financially, I'd say thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather not have a super regional playing in my ballpark unless I'm in it. But that's just me. So we'll see. I really don't have that answer, Darren. I've heard a couple of different things, none of it that I know to be truthful. And so I don't know that I'd speculate much more.
Fair enough. I just, I hadn't heard, but back to the diamond. What frustrated me, we've heard it all year. We've seen it all year, right? The offensive struggles. I mean, that's a very generic way to put it, but it's very fair. And this weekend it was the strikeout, but it wasn't just that. It was the approach, right? Because how often were there opportunities that were left out there with huge hacks and misses and just straight up trouble with velocity? And then it got into their minds. And in the final game, borderline pitches that most of the time at worst were borderline. There was a lot of grumbling in the crowd. I watched it all on TV.
Yeah.
There were very few that were actually really bad calls. I'm not talking about the Eister check. But it was getting in their heads. You could visibly see the eye rolls. You could visibly see after pitches that they just didn't offer at, rolling their eyes. It became a mental thing. It became a mental thing by game 3.
It was very frustrating. Yeah, they were frustrated. And you saw Satterfield when he struck out to end the season yesterday visibly say something to the umpire, which I know I get it. That was questionable too. It was questionable, Darren. Here's the thing, right? And Ashley, I see your comment. I'm going to get to that in just a minute because I've got a stat to back up what he's saying there. Here's the thing. They look, you can't, umpires are umpires. They're going to have bad days. You can't have bad years at the plate. and look, they're going to have bad days. You and everybody else out there are going to have to adjust. Okay. Now the Eister thing. So let's talk about that for a second. So here's why that was important. I'm not the fan that says we lost that game because of a horrible call on Andrew Eister. And I'm not that fan for this reason. It was a bad call. That was terrible. I mean, I'm right behind the dugout. I could see it. So But here's why it's bad. This team isn't good enough to overcome calls like that. They're just not. And when you get a game-changing or a potential game-changing call like that, you got to be able to overcome it. It's not the only one that's happened in the sport this year, and it sure as hell wasn't the only one that happened on Saturday across the country. Umpires sometimes are going to miss things, and they're going to be bad. So, but those are the moments that offensively this program, unfortunately, just isn't good enough to overcome. They don't have 3 or 4 sticks waiting in the wings to go out there and pop one, and it's like that moment never happened. So it was a crucial moment. Now there's also no guarantee that even if he got the check swing there that he was going to walk or that he was going to hit the next pitch that was thrown. There was no guarantee that anything was going to happen that was going to give them the lead. Would they have had a better chance? Well, of course, I get it, but there's no guarantee that was going to happen. It's not like that was walking in the tying run or something like that. So that evidence is not directly tied to the outcome. So, it's fair to beat on it because you can't make that call if you're an umpire. It's a horrible call at the most important time of the year. So I certainly blame that guy. He wasn't on the field yesterday. I think they removed him. They should have. It was terrible. But there's also on South Carolina's side, some of these borderline strikes, you got to swing the bat.
Yeah.
I mean,
it got
and they didn't.
They were looking to walk. It was so much in their heads that these borderline pitches they were hoping were balls. Just and not considering a swing. You could see it in there. You could see it in a lot of the at-bats. So once it gets to that point, it's a huge problem. And yeah, you're right? That Eister thing was an awful call. It did not cost them the game. And by and large, the umpiring was pretty good this weekend. It really was. By and large, it was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought that the strike zones were, they weren't my favorite. But that's personal preference. Every guy's going to have a different zone. I think. Let me say something too. Kind of a little off record here or off topic, but one of the things that's driven me nuts forever, and I'm not saying that every weekend you should be flying guys from North Carolina to L.A. to call games, but I've never understood why we have umpires specific to certain leagues. Like, now I get it. There's umpires that call the SEC. They also call the Big South. They also, because they live here in the state of South Carolina. Like, I understand all of that. It's regional. But then we get to this time of the year, Darren, and you get a crew from Portland, Oregon. And I'm like, well, why don't we just train everybody under the same umbrella? Because although you would think that it is consistent in umpire training, which a lot of it is, there are some things that are going to be a little bit different here and there, and it's probably not a bad thing to fly who I think is a great umpire, Joe Marion. Used to be a football coach here in the Low Country, still is a football coach. Used to be the head coach at Stratford. Been calling games for I don't know
ever.
God bless you, Joe. 150 years it feels like. Never ages himself, but he calls a lot of games in South Carolina and in North Carolina and places like that. It'd probably be good to have Joe Marion every once in a while go out to Texas and call a game against, between the Longhorns and whomever. Not all the time, but just to mix it up and get umpires feeling a little bit different, traveling around, because that's what they do in the postseason. So why don't we do that? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Same exact NCAA philosophy for hoops. They're regional, and then once you get to the NCAA tournament, it's here are the guys who are going to ref the NCAA tournament. We took the best of each region. We're throwing them wherever they're going to go. It's the same philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. And I just I understand it. I do understand it. But there's always a comfort level too. And I think they try to remove that comfort level in the postseason. A lot of these coaches, you ask Coach Kingston or Monty or whomever, the umpires they see throughout the year, they've known them forever. They've called a lot of games and they probably try to remove that as much as they can. But I think there could be some tweaks, but that's not why they lost. Carolina lost because they couldn't hit. And they hit 246 as a team this year, 545 strikeouts, a 344 on base percentage. I don't count 2020. They only played 16 games. 2019, they hit 236 as a club, 511 strikeouts, 333 on base percentage. The strikeouts didn't go up this year. The strikeouts actually were exactly the same because they didn't play in the postseason in 2019. They struck out 35 times this weekend. So if you actually do the math, they struck out literally the exact same number of times in the regular season, including the SEC tournament they did 2 years ago. Now let's get into that a little bit. So I'm not saying anybody's wrong here. I'm actually going to go back to one of Ashley's comments a minute ago. South Carolina's baseball success has hinged on some clutch offensive magic. Just haven't seen any of that in this program for a while. Two-parter there, okay? Because, well, Andrew Eicher was really clutch in the Clemson series. They had a walk-off against Florida. They were really clutch in the LSU series. They had their moments this year. There's no question about that. They had their moments. But where they didn't have those moments, those are late-game moments, late-game heroics, most of them. Where they didn't have that was in the second inning or in the sixth inning. Okay, and those are the things that when you watch, if you watch enough, if you've seen every game, if you've seen every pitch, if you've seen every play, they start to you can't remember exactly which game and where it was, but you know what happened because you saw it, right? It builds up, and you're like, golly, how many times are we going to get runners on first and second with nobody out? We can't get a run in, and so over time, mentally we're trained to think that, well, it never happened. It did happen at times this year, but obviously it didn't happen enough. But let's look at these numbers real quick. 545 strikeouts. Okay. The 2000 team at South Carolina, anchored by pitching, just like this year's was. Kip Balknight, Golden Spikes Award winner, 17 wins. Peter Bauer had, I think, 13. Scott Barber had, I think, 9. And he also had 12 or 13 saves that year. Anchored by pitching. They hit 299 as a squad, okay? 299 is pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Struck out 484 times. 484 times. Now, don't get me wrong. They got to the super regionals. This team was just in the regionals, though. That's 60 strikeouts less than this club 22 seasons ago. And that was a team that went 25-5 in the Southeastern Conference. At that point in time, it was the best record they'd ever seen in this league. Anybody. Nobody had ever done it. Till Vanderbilt a few years ago went 27-3. All right, 386 on base percentage. This year, 344. That's a pretty significant jump. Okay. So, but what's missing? Like 60 strikeouts, Darren, through 60 games. That's one a game. That's not a huge difference. So, what is it? Let me tell you exactly what it is. It's what are you doing when you don't strike out?
Mm-hmm.
And although that was power hour, that time in baseball, that was the long ball. It was gorilla ball. LSU brought it out in 1996. So, a lot of balls left the yard, and there were a lot of strikeouts. But what happened in between then, there weren't a lot of lazy pop-ups. There weren't a lot of routine 6-7 dribblers to the third baseman with runners on second and third. They made their swings count when they made contact. All those teams did prior to the last couple of years. Way too many easy outs in this program the last 2 years. And I say I'm saying 2019, not 2020. Way too many easy outs. This team hasn't had the bench guys that you bring in from junior college, not to come in and be your everyday superstar. You're going to find guys like that here and there. Steve Pierce, for instance. But they didn't rely on those guys. Carolina brought in Drew Martin to literally, hey, Drew, my name's Ray Tanner. Here's why I'm recruiting you. You're going to probably get about 50 at-bats this year, and I need you to hit 10 of them out of the yard. Like, literally, that is your mentality sitting on the bench when you walk in there, hit it out of the damn ballpark. And that's what you worked on in practice. And I'll tell you, from a guy who played in the early eras up to 2002-ish, when BP would be thrown to those guys who were brought in for those specific roles, all right, 2-1 count, here we go, and he throws one on the outer half of the plate, and you line one into left field in batting practice, Tanner was pissed about it. Well, now, wait a second. I just lined one to left field. Why are you mad? Because I brought you in to hit a home run. So hit the freaking ball out of the yard. And he would train these guys to be able to do that. They didn't do it all the time, but they did. We all remember the moments. And this team didn't have that. So how do they get there? Well, that's Mark Kingston's job.
Well, is that where you want to go, though? Is that the program with today's baseball, with where the state of the game is? Is that what you're trying to do? Or are you simply trying to improve the offense and do it in a different type of way?
You have to have balance in an offense, clearly. So I'm not saying like this program is all or nothing at the plate. We all know that, right? It's literally, if it doesn't leave the yard, they hit some balls hard this weekend. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're a college baseball team. Like, they're going to hit balls hard, but the consistency of that needs to be there. It's not there. So you have to have those guys. Look at Mississippi State. They have guys they can call on the bench literally to come in and play gorilla ball. They have their everyday guys who can swipe bags, who can run them down in the outfield, who are going to be your kind of gap-to-gap guys. They've got balanced power guys in there. And then most importantly, they have guys that know how to hit in situations that you need to hit in. And so there needs to be balance if you want to be an elite program in this sport. Carolina had that for a long time. So you got to find it. You got to find that balance. And, I think we've gotten into this bubble and discussing this program and others in this, this new era, Darren, where everybody references analytics and trajectory of swing, oh, they're all trying to hit home runs and this, that, and the other. Dude, guys have been swinging like that forever. Ever heard of King Griffey Jr.? I mean, it's about whether you can or you can't, period. So it's not like this is new to the sport, but what it's done is it's put us in this little bubble where it's, okay, well, we're either gorilla ball or we're not.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have to be one or the other, but you have to have the ability to do it, but that shouldn't be exactly who you are. It's just also like Darren, you don't want to be the team just slap singles around all day. I mean, nobody wants to do that.
But you need the ability, like you're just saying there. That's why I asked the question, because it does need to be there's got to be balance in there. And that's fine. Clark can go up there and hit 50 home runs. But if there isn't balance there around him, 50 solo shots is only going to get you so far. Yeah. And there were way too many times, not just this weekend, but throughout the year. But I'll focus on this weekend, where there were opportunities to be had by just moving the guy over. I'm not saying bunt, but take a shorter swing. You could call it a 2-strike approach if you want. You could call it just a shorter approach, whichever one you want to call it. It's got to be there. That's got to be part of the repertoire, got to be part of this lineup to keep things moving, to keep that line moving through. If you don't have it, you're going to have the times where these strikeout numbers look awful, and they are awful, because when you only have 55% of your at-bats actually in play, then What are you doing, as you said? What are you doing with those balls? It's not enough opportunity.
You can't have that. I mean, you don't even have to say anything else. It's pretty simple. They struck out 35 times. I mean, you can't do that. I hate to say it, because there's a part of me that's like, who didn't see this coming? I mean, all year long, they have beaten the teams they're supposed to beat, literally all year long. And then the teams that they probably weren't supposed to beat, they would lose those series. Got swept once, by Ole Miss, but they'd salvage a game. But the elite arms, they couldn't hit them.
Mm-mm.
And it's funny how it kind of worked out this weekend, because it's not like they went and raked on Friday, but they did beat the elite arm, the Andrew Abbott kid from Virginia. And then they saw a couple of different arms the last couple of days, and they couldn't get anything done. But once you've gotten to this spot here, guys, ODU is a national seed. I mean, they're good. I mean, they have somebody. Somebody over there could play, right? So, they didn't make the adjustments they needed to make, and it didn't work out. I mean, you mentioned Wes Clark could hit 50 home runs. That's great, but and we'd all love to see it. But what are you doing in the other at bats? Because if you get 160 at bats and you strike out 70 times, whew.
Yeah. So to that point, that's sixth inning. Wes Clark's at bat. I text you this during that at bat. I don't know if he had a better at bat all year long. And that run in the sixth didn't include a home run, right? He almost hit a home run. Instead, you get kind of screwed with the ground rule double. But either way, it ends up working out with line drives around the field. He had that long at bat. Other guys saw more pitches. It's tiring out Virginia's starter, and you string some hits together, right? It wasn't the long ball there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's bad luck. I've never seen what happened in the double play. I've been around this game for 35 years. I've never seen that one time.
Pitcher line drive.
Yeah, I mean, I listened after the game. I was listening to the post-game show. Tommy Moody said it as perfectly as anybody could possibly say it. I have never seen that play in a game like this time of the year. That's literally never happened. And then, with Mark on that, I know there's a lot of people who say, well, you probably should have bunted there. There is certainly, if it was me, I would have bunted. But you know what Mark did? I got to give him credit. First of all, Satterfield hit the you-know-what out of it, and it happened to go right back up the middle. What Kingston did there was something that Ray Tanner did for years at South Carolina. he had a feel for his guy at the plate. And he had a conversation with him right when that at bat was starting. Anybody that's been around Carolina baseball, raise your hand right now. If you've been around Carolina baseball for a long time, especially the Tanner era, raise your hand when I say this. Did you ever watch Ray Tanner walk out and talk to somebody who was walking up to the plate? And how many times you go, what the hell are they talking about? We all raise our hands because we all saw it. And, a lot of those guys were my dudes, and sometimes they were frustrated, like, just let me hit, coach. But a lot of those guys, but Tanner's walking out there going, maybe there's some strategy in it, but there's also a part of him that's like, how you feel right now? I feel really good. Okay, I'm not going to bunch you. Hit the freaking baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of just a confidence thing. Just see it and hit the damn thing, okay? Get it done. I don't know what Mark said to him, but I do know this. He saw it, and he hit a missile, and it happened to hit the kid right in the glove. I don't know what else more you can do there. So it was the baseball gods maybe saying, well, you should have bunted, I guess. I don't know. But, I mean, I don't blame him for that decision. I probably would have bunted if I was the head coach, but they don't pay me to be the head coach. So it actually was the right decision. It just happened to go literally right at that guy. I mean, it was a remarkable play.
I agree. And as things were getting later in games, I was having this conversation as well. I don't think, I would not have bunted there. But in terms of the baseball gods, I agree with that. What are you going to do? But with the way the team was swinging, with their propensity for strikeouts, with the fact that what they were doing with the balls in play, I didn't like the idea of bunting late in the game because they needed all of their at-bats. I mean, you need those outs. You got to use those outs if you can use those outs with a team that's struggling that much.
Yeah, I mean, those little things can be questioned. They're always going to be questioned in baseball. Look, I heard folks after the game Saturday night, ripping into Skylar and Mark about Thomas Farr and walking the winning run home. Well, now look, okay, you don't ever want to lose a game by walking the winning run in. Mm-hmm. You just don't. But was anybody paying attention here? I mean, this kid had gotten, he was fine. He didn't execute one pitch. That is not to say that whoever the hell they were going to bring in wasn't going to do the exact same thing. That kid literally earned that moment. And how many times have other guys been left in there to get it done and they got it done? It's happened before. You have a feel for your guys, and that was a moment there that they gambled and it didn't work. Okay, I mean, it's his job to throw a strike too. So I just think that it just didn't go their way this weekend. They got work to do, guys. And we're going to talk to Colin Taylor here in a minute about what the future of this program looks like. What some of these guys in uniform, what their futures look like, whether they are at South Carolina, they're headed to the draft, maybe the transfer portal. I think if you're a South Carolina fan, there's reason to be optimistic, but there's also reason to be concerned. I don't think that this season was a failure in any way, shape, or form. I do think that this program probably went about as far as they could based on what we knew from essentially week 2 on. And but this isn't the expectation, Darren. The expectation, as you know, at South Carolina is Omaha. Whether it's fair or not, that's the expectation. And so they got some things to work through, and we'll see what it looks like.
So I was thinking in my head a little differently about expectations, and I was kind of doing that this morning, right? Because Omaha, while there's, I'm sure, a good number of the fan base that says that's the expectation. Well, 8 teams get there every year. Yep. So that's a tad unrealistic to be an every year type of expectation. But if you can compete in the SEC and not be middle of the pack, right? Because that's where they are. This is going to be the best league year in and year out. We know that. At least it will be one of them. So middle of the pack in the SEC, is that good enough? And my hunch is the answer to that question is no. You don't have to win the SEC every year, but you got to be up there at least in contention, right, to win the SEC. And whether there are other great teams in the league or not, there are going to be. And yeah, you had a tough schedule this year. But the expectation and the fair expectation for South Carolina should be to win some of those series. You don't have to win all of them, but win some of them. Be able to compete on Friday nights. Give yourself a chance. This year's team didn't have that. Next year, I don't know. This year didn't have it.
Yeah, there should be. I hope people will remember this year. I really do. I hope folks won't look up in 10 years and look back and just look at the record and say, wow, that just wasn't a good year. You have to, sometimes you need to look a little bit deeper and try to figure out what happened if you can't remember. I think this year's team, we all need to understand what they saw and what they went up against. But to your point, well, yeah, they're absolutely, and I'm not saying I'm not a fan saying this or a media guy. The expectation in that locker room is to beat Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, and everybody else that's on your schedule. Right. Like, that's their expectation, has been around here for a long time. And it's important for the kids understand that. It's also important for the fan base to understand that that is their expectation. But when they're not meeting expectations, you got to find out why. And that's what this, this is going to be quite an evaluation period. I think that, and to Craig's point, yeah, exactly. You think Florida or TCU is happy either? It happens. It does happen. And the fan base here, much better than that fan base down in Florida. As long as they got their jean shorts and their orange juice, they're okay generally. But kind of kidding. But I would expect there probably to be a little bit of a different look next year in Columbia. I'm not saying head coaching change. I hope people don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I just think that people probably need to expect there will probably be some different things going on, and but that won't change expectations for South Carolina baseball. And by the way, I will say this too. It's a great group of kids up there, and I hope people understand that. I haven't had much of a chance to be up in Columbia this year with all the little young bucks I have running around the house all the time. But got a chance to spend a lot of time around that program, and there's some really good people up there. So hope people will understand that. Colin Taylor's a really good person too. I saw him up there and right there in the booth, had his mask on the whole 9 yards. I don't know how he was eating his hot dog with his mask on, but he did, and he finished it. He's going to join us next. So hang tight. We'll also give you an update on the Super Regionals. There's a lot to be decided today about what the postseason is going to look like, boys and girls. If you haven't paid attention, we'll tell you about it on the other side of this break on the JB and Goldwater show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike two! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, come see us today at Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per $1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to BCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes VW.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
What's up, everybody? This is South Carolina singer-songwriter Patrick Davis, and I might live in Nashville, Tennessee now, but guess what? I can always keep up with the news back in South Carolina because I've got the JB and Goldwater Show. Thank you, JB and Darren, for being live, loud, and awesome.
Well, you're welcome, Patrick. Welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show. Driven by Stokes Volkswagen, this reaction type Monday afternoon following the Gamecocks loss in the regionals in Columbia this weekend. Before we get Colin Taylor in here, let me give you a scoreboard update from Starkville. A 3-run blast has left the yard, and Campbell in the first inning leads the Bulldogs 3-2. If Campbell wins the game, they will have the game 7 basically immediately following. I think it's scheduled for about 4 o'clock. Later on this afternoon to decide that regional, but Mississippi State, of course, looking to come back there. 1 o'clock this afternoon, Southern Miss and Ole Miss in Oxford on ESPN2. So that's set to go in less than a half hour. And whoever wins that will advance. Nebraska and Arkansas tonight on ESPN2 at 7 o'clock. ODU and Virginia, of course, up in Columbia on ESPNU tonight at 7. Stanford and the Anteaters of UC Irvine at 10 o'clock late on ESPNU, and on ESPN2 at 10 o'clock, Oregon and LSU. LSU playing for more than just advancing. They're also playing for the dwindling now career of Hall of Fame head coach Paul Mainieri. Who has advanced? NC State. They're waiting on the Nebraska-Arkansas winner to see who they play in the Supers. Texas is awaiting South Florida and Mark Calvy's South Alabama Jaguars in Gainesville. We'll see who gets to the Longhorns there. Notre Dame throttled everybody in their regional this weekend. They have advanced. Texas Tech has moved on. Texas Tech is waiting on the winner of UC Irvine and Stanford. Notre Dame waiting on Campbell and Mississippi State. Arizona has moved on. They're awaiting the Southern Miss Ole Miss matchup today. Vandy and ECU are already finalized in the Supers. Tennessee is advanced. They're awaiting LSU and Oregon. And, of course, ODU and Virginia and Dallas Baptist and Oregon State, they are competing for the super regional bids on that side of the bracket there. So, all right, with all that said, sorry, Colin, I know we made you kind of wait, brother. How you doing?
I am fantastic. I am in off-season mode now, which means a lot of getting caught up on things that I didn't get to do during the season and spending time with, a wife and a family and some people that you kind of neglect at times during the course of the 3-sport season that you're covering.
Yeah. Well, yeah, baseball is the busiest of all of them, right? I mean, they play 56 games plus the postseason, and you have to cover everything else. So I would imagine the spring for you is rather sleepless.
Usually more often than not. We lucked out this year. We didn't travel at all to any of the road games. So
right.
That helped. But most springs, yeah, especially during February and March with hoops going on at the same time. It's a lot of hours trying to find radio shows and podcasts to listen to in the car.
You can always listen to us.
Yeah. It's an interesting time.
It is an interesting time. It's also an interesting time in Columbia, Colin, because the season is now officially over. 34-23. The Gamecocks wrapped up yesterday with that loss against Virginia. I think Mark actually said it best, to be honest. Yeah, they're a couple hits shy of getting to the super regional, honestly, and they just couldn't get it done offensively. So let's just start with what we saw this weekend, from game 1 through game 3 for Carolina in those 27 innings. Assess what you saw upstairs and kind of how everything unfolded.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of went the way the season had gone for the most part. Pitching was fantastic. The offense was very momentum-based. You saw that in game 1 against Virginia. You saw the wrong side of that in games 2 and 3. But the pitching was fantastic, and the offense just couldn't get enough together to back up what was a tremendous pitching performance. And during a regular season, that may be a series loss or, dropping a midweek, which they didn't do much of. But here now they're eliminated. So very, very similar to what we saw over the course of the regular season. I mean, Daniel Lloyd, Julian Bosnick, the entire pitching staff for the most part was great. And the offense just couldn't back them up.
Well, if you ask me, who's the MVP of a 3-game losing regional appearance for Carolina, it's Daniel Lloyd. It's not even close. No offense to some of those other guys, but they certainly don't win the game Friday without Daniel Lloyd, and they don't have a chance to win it yesterday. Even though Bosnick was special as well, that's the best he's been in his career at Carolina in the most important moments, and he was brilliant. He's part of a bunch of guys, Colin, that might not be back next year. I mean, let's look at this here. Khalil, Heinrich, Myers, Eister, Satterfield, Gilreath, Jordan. I'm talking about graduation plus draft. Seitler, Clark, Brady Allen, Thomas Farr, Carey, Bosnick, Danny Lloyd. Am I missing anybody? I mean, there could be some major turnover, my friend, and we haven't gotten to the transfers yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty new look team next year with obviously transfers happen in every sport. So you're going to see some, and maybe as early as today, maybe as early as the rest of this week. But it's going to look a lot different. Not only are you losing a bunch of guys, but you're losing a bunch of guys that have made an impact and were part of the reason why you were, one of the 64 teams in the regional and hosting in an odd way. So the Brady Allens, the Brett Careys, you're losing your 3 at the end of the season, your 3 starters. Julian Boslink's obviously draft eligible, Danny Lloyd. You're losing Brady Allen, Andrew Eister, and maybe Wes Clark. Maybe Eister too. Those are your top 3 guys in the order. Maybe Seitler, so your top 4 guys in the order. And then some of the depth players that you have. So it's going to be a new look offense. It's going to be a new look pitching staff. And if you're South Carolina, you hope the guys that are still here, the Sanderses of the world, the Sweats, the Phippses, develop enough to make a big impact next year. And then some of the guys on the offensive roster and then the incoming guys are able to step in and have success right away, because you're losing quite a bit of production on both ends, offensively and from a pitching staff perspective.
Colin Taylor, Gamecock Central. Ray Tanner long said, Colin, as part of this conversation, when he was the head coach in Columbia, we don't rebuild, we reload at South Carolina. And they literally did that every single year under Ray Tanner. Sometimes they didn't get to Omaha, but they never had a rebuilding year, we saw that a couple of years ago. The year after they went to Fayetteville and got to game 3 of that Super in 2019 was brutal. And we're like, okay, well, they're probably rebuilding. Colin, look, I have as much respect for Mark Kingston and that staff as literally anybody out there. And I know they went through a COVID year and sometimes things don't work out, but this fan base doesn't give a lot of excuses for rebuilding every 2 or 3 years in baseball. Like you do have to reload. So with that being said, what's most important to do that? Is it in keeping some of the guys that they can keep if they don't go in the draft, or if they're interested in transferring? Is it finding a new group of guys to come play immediately? I mean, obviously they need to make some adjustments. We'll get to that in a minute, on the diamond with what they're doing, especially offensively. But what is most important to reloading here for Carolina?
It's just, I hate to say the word better players, but it's just you have to get quality depth in there, especially offensively. And you hope, they signed a really big class for this 2021 group, anticipating guys leaving. And you hope that the high end guys that you're going to bring in this summer and then this fall help and can help right away, especially from an offense perspective. Obviously the draft is still looming in July for all these guys, but you hope, you can get Cooper Kinnon to school, who's, probably a day 1 starter if he arrives. Same with maybe a Michael Braswell or a Thad Ector in your class. And if you can go mine now that you have a free year, you can play right away from a transfer perspective, go out and land some transfer players that can come help you out from a hitting perspective right away. Because there's a lot of, and from a pitching perspective too, because there's a lot of innings to go around. There's a lot of at-bats that are going to be had. So getting guys in that can consistently hit at a high level is probably priority number 1. And then filling out the rest of your pitching staff with starter guys, high-end guys that can give you some depth there, because they have some pieces, but they kind of need to rebuild depth because, like you said, they're planning on losing a lot from this pitching staff.
Yeah, this staff was really good, guys. Top 4 in the SEC and everything. Let me give you the names of the 3 that surrounded them. Mississippi State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, and Arkansas. Anybody looked at the top of the standings lately? I mean, this staff is really good. I mean, this is an Omaha staff, Colin, but they didn't have Omaha bats. Obviously, offensively, it was not good. Seitler, just to be clear, Josiah Seitler can return to South Carolina, correct?
Yes, he's draft eligible, but he can return.
Okay. Which, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Josiah, but I do know that he's a guy that they can do a lot with. He played all year in the outfield, but he's also a first baseman, and if they can really get his bat going, the kid's got pop. That'd be great. So let's play best case scenario with Colin Taylor. Somebody cue the music, right? Here we go. If you have Josiah Seitler, Burgess is expected to be back. The Boychuk kid should be healthy. Wimmer, more than likely, they're going to be able to move him to his natural position, which is the outfield next year, maybe back in center field. Brennan Malone is a guy that they brought in. Literally, they said he'd probably hit third as a freshman, and he got hot at the end of the year, which is, I think, a really good sign for him. He's got to clean it up over at third. He can't throw it across the diamond for whatever reason. But he's a guy that you feel like you should be able to depend on. What does that tell you? Those four guys, maybe we'll see what Mendham looks like. He's got some things to work on, but if that's the core group offensively, what would that tell you about the 2022 team?
That they need some help around them. And I'm not disparaging those guys. They all had moments. They strike out too much, but this entire offense struck out too much. But they need some help around them. They need to fill that with veteran bats or high impact bats. From the freshman class or a JUCO class or a transfer portal kid. But it's a group you can build around. I mean, Wimmer has flashes and athleticism and can play center field. Malone was a top 100 prospect coming out of high school, turned down significant money to come to school. Mendham was a highly rated JUCO kid. Colin Burgess has flashes offensively, is a great defensive catcher, and Boychuk is really good offensively. So there's some pieces there to build with, but you need to see development first and foremost, and then you need to surround them with a couple more bats in that lineup consistently that can hit for average and then hit for power as well.
How about the staff? Do you anticipate the staff returning intact?
We're still TBD on that. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't be shocked if there was some staff changes, but I mean, nothing concrete there, and nothing tangible in terms of reporting for what a staff might look like.
I did some research, Colin. I know you're a big numbers guy, so if you'd like me to pass this along, let me know. I'll just give it to you, and you can claim it as your own. A lot of people do that these days,
I appreciate that.
It's a quick Gamecock archives search on the website. I don't think this is something that's been sent to us from Kent before, but it's actually pretty easy. You just go to every year and look at the numbers. Historically bad, since 2000, the offense has not been good. I don't count the 2020 year because they only played 16 games. That doesn't matter. I mean, they have 50 other games to play, and they didn't. So 2019, 2021, they hit 246 this year, 545 strikeouts, 344 on base percentage. It's funny because the strikeouts per the regular season, including maybe the SEC tournament, are exactly what they were in 2019, Colin. They struck out 511 times that year, but they didn't go to the postseason. So Carolina K'd 35 times this weekend. That jumped that number up. Only on base 33% of the time in 2019, and that batting average at 236. The worst team batting average they'd ever had, or in this span, 257 back in 2015. But here's what's actually interesting about all this. The 2000 team, Trip Kelly, Drew Meyer, Brandon Pack, all these major bats in that lineup, Marcus McBeth, they struck out 484 times. It's not unusual for Gamecock programs to strike out a lot. I mean, the 2004 team that went to Omaha struck out 463 times. The 2010 team won the College World Series and struck out 434 times. All right, so if fans think that they're just going to cut the strikeouts in half all the way in half down to 250 or something like that, they're wrong. It's part of the game, but it's what happens in those other at-bats. And if you really look at it, Colin, they just didn't have a lot of quality at-bats. They didn't put pressure on guys. lazy fly balls, routine ground balls here and there. So the strikeouts, definitely, that number needs to come down. Don't get me wrong. I get it. You come down 1 or 2 a game, that's going to cut that number all the way down to 450. That's pretty average for Carolina baseball. But those other at-bats, they got to be more competitive. I mean, that's the big key. What have you seen when you look at that competitive at-bats versus the rest of the league? What do you see?
I mean, same thing. I mean, there were a lot of times, and I'm all about being aggressive early in counts if a pitcher gives you something, but if not, work a count, give a quality at bat, make it hard on their defense, whether that's a hard hit ball that an outfielder has to track down or a deep, ball in the 6 hole that, the shortstop has to eat because it's too far back or something like that. You need to have better quality at bats 1 through 9 in your lineup. And you saw glimpses of that this year from different guys, but the problem is that they didn't do it all at the same time. Or there wasn't 4 or 5 guys doing it all at the same time. And they strike out. I mean, the strikeouts were insane. I mean, you talk about the strikeouts. I did the math on their batting average for balls in play, their BABIP, which is the newfangled analytics stuff that we talk about. But on balls that they actually hit that weren't home runs, they hit almost 300. I mean, when they made contact, they were typically hitting the ball well. So they just need to put quality at bats together. The problem is that they're so aggressive early that they get down into a 1-2 or a 0-2 count, and then you're having to battle for the rest of it. It's not like you're on the front foot and you're being the aggressor in the at bat. So that's a big issue, and just not striking out and putting together quality at bats from top to bottom is where I would start with this offense.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd like to think, I mean, you can't sit here and put a number on it. But, I mean, if that batting average, if that team average, Colin, this year was, honestly, it's 246. If it was like 255, you're probably talking about a team that's in the super regionals right now. If it was 250.
Right. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And the fact that it's just, if you're South Carolina and if you're especially a South Carolina fan, this might be one of the best pitching staff South Carolina's had over the last 5 years, period.
Ever.
One of the best top two or three in the last decade. And you weren't able to get to a super, you weren't able to win a regional with it. And that's the frustrating part, is that you had so many high-end guys on it and couldn't put it all together offensively to give them the shot. I mean, heck, Thomas Barr went 3-7 this year with that stuff. I mean, that just shows you the kind of offensive inconsistencies and anemia that happened this year. So that's the frustrating part if you're a South Carolina fan or a South Carolina player, is you had this pitching staff, one of the best in the country, and couldn't get enough offense behind it to really make a run. Which if they did get enough offense, then you're talking about a team that is a legitimate Omaha threat.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this team had the arms to do damage in Omaha, period. It doesn't matter who they're facing. You can name anybody, Arkansas, whatever. Brett Carey could beat anybody. So now I do think, though, that there's a good side of that. I mean, all right, if we want to try to look at the glass half full here, what you need to fix. I mean, it's not like they're like, well, if we just – no, they know. I mean, yeah, they're going to probably have to replace some arms. I get that. We all get that. We understand it. You should probably feel pretty good, though, if Skylar Meade is your pitching coach moving forward. He develops dudes. He's going to develop guys. But I think at the end of the day, what we've all discovered here is your pitching staff can be elite like it was, but if you can't hit, you can't win. Not in baseball, not at the level that you want to win at. And I know forever it's all, well, you win on pitching and defense. Well, that's true. But you know what? You also can't hit 240. You got to be able to swing it in college baseball a little bit, and they haven't been able to do it. So they know, Colin, they know what they got to do.
Yeah, and that's what this offense or this offseason is going to be about. Retooling their pitching staff a little bit from, building some depth, making sure they're developing guys and getting guys on campus. But the focus needs to be on the offense and not, developing, hoping that some of the guys that are going to be back next year are in summer ball and working on that, or, bringing in guys that they feel like can help them. And that's the big thing, that they know, and they can spend the next, 3 months over the summer before fall ball starts getting guys in and getting guys ready to go and really working on things over the course of the offseason. Yeah, it's an easy to-do list if you're Mark Kingston and that staff and what to fix.
Colin Taylor, Gamecock Central, a couple more minutes and we'll let you go here. From a from maybe a little bit of an inside the program perspective, what is Carolina baseball like these days? In the locker room, the vibe, we've talked about expectations. I think everybody expects to win. You're not recruited at South Carolina. You don't show up on a visit and not know what's going on here. I mean, it's all over the walls. It's everywhere. There's high expectations. But as far as the guys who are in the program, what's that like these days under Coach Kingston with that staff, this group of players? What's that been like? It's been tough with coming off of COVID and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's tough, and losing the way they did yesterday. I mean, you got eliminated from the NCAA tournament off back-to-back one-run losses. That can't feel good, especially when you had chances there to win it late. But they were very close-knit this year. This was a very close group. I've had multiple people describe it to me as a family. They had a very good vibe in there, and they're hurt. I mean, this is a group that's hurt, but they're optimistic about the future for the most part. And now it's about going out and executing a plan to make sure that vision of what you have comes to fruition. That's the next step. You've been here a while. Now it's about the groundwork you've laid over the last 3 full seasons, 4 years, and really executing it. But yeah, it's a close-knit group. They like each other a lot. And I think that's another frustrating part, is that you had such a good group of guys that were fun and energetic with some personality, and it didn't work out. They didn't get to go on a run, but yeah, very, very close-knit group, very big family, and there's a good vibe right now in the program.
How would you compare the first? I know everybody says 4 years. Look, I get it. The results you can't say 4 years for. You can't do your averages and things like that. They only played 16 games last year. However, what you can attribute to Mark Kingston for 4 years is the amount of time he's had to recruit players, develop players, and things like that. So if you compare that to the first 4 years, or for Chad Holbrook's first 4 years at South Carolina, how is there a comparison? How would you make that comparison? And what do you think next year's expectation will be for Coach Kingston?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can really compare it. I don't like to do a whole lot of comparison stuff. And I mean, Chad walked into a completely different situation than what Kingston walked into from a recruiting perspective, from an on-field perspective, from the last 3 years perspective. But expectations for going into next year should be not only to get back to the tournament, but make a super regional. That's what South Carolina is about. South Carolina expects to be playing in the NCAA tournament and expected to win some games in it. Not one game, but games. That's kind of what fans expect. And, and I know Mark Kingston expects it. So the goal should be to get back to the NCAA tournament regardless. And depending on obviously matchups and things like that, win some games and be playing for a chance to go to Omaha the second weekend in June.
This is only the second time ever in the history of this program that they lost a regional at home. The only other time it happened was in 2014. Didn't happen in the 80s, didn't happen in the 90s, didn't happen in the 70s. And it only happened one time this century in 2014. I'll leave it on this note, though, to the fans, Colin. I've been around Carolina baseball for 30 years, know what it looks like when it's going well. I think we all do. We've all seen some great moments up there. In your words, describe the atmosphere on Saturday night.
Unreal. I mean, just the day leading up to it, during the day, it felt like that was a huge game. I mean, you couldn't wait to get to the ballpark. For me personally, to just see what it was like. It was about as good an atmosphere as I've seen over the last 5 years. I mean, the 1-2 matchup against Florida that South Carolina won was probably number one for me in terms of atmosphere, but this was easily second. I mean, just so much fun, and the energy around you could feel it. I mean, an hour before first pitch. One of the best atmospheres I've been around in college baseball, period. It was awesome.
It was something. You're right. Everywhere around that ballpark was electric throughout the afternoon, and it certainly led into the game. They didn't get it done, but you always do. You always deliver, Colin. First inning, ninth inning, fifth inning, whatever. You deliver every time, man. And folks can figure that out if they head to Gamecock Central and subscribe if they haven't already done so. But I do hope here in June, now that you don't have to fly out to Omaha or something, I really do hope that you'll get some sleep and find yourself in a nice diet.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice diet, more golf, a little bit more sleep. So we're looking forward. I hate that the season ended the way it did and all that, but I'm looking forward to a few weeks off before you get to go back down to Hoover and start this Shane train media days next month.
Well, it was neat to see him there. I spent some time at the facility on Friday, Colin, with Pat DeMarco and ran into some of the staff and stuff. And then I saw a lot of them. Spent 15 minutes with Eric Kimmery yesterday at the ballpark. And you could look at there. Shane Beamer was at every ball game. They hosted 500 prospects this weekend. He was there, shook every hand. And then he was at every baseball game sitting over there with Coach Tanner. That was neat.
Yeah. Oh, and Saturday night against Old Dominion, I think he maybe sat for a grand total of 15 minutes over the course of the game. I mean, that dude, he worked all day at camp evaluating dudes, and then just all of a sudden, was there and couldn't sit down. He was that invested in the game. So,
good for him.
Good. Yeah, dude loves some South Carolina sports and getting out there and meeting fans and soaking in being a head coach in the SEC.
No doubt about it. Great report as always, my friend. I know that over the next few days, you'll probably be doing a lot on this 2021 Carolina baseball team. I can't wait to read all of that and what it's going to look like in the future. Thank you for your time, Colin. Great stuff. I did see you up there in the press box, and I didn't get a chance to see you this weekend, but just wonderful coverage. Thank you so much.
Hey, I really, really appreciate it, and I appreciate you giving me a chance to come on here and talk some ball.
Enjoy the time.
We're even going to give Wes a chance right after you here in just a minute. So,
okay, that works. I'm glad I got to lead things off.
Yeah, that's a hell of a leadoff hitter. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah.
See ya.
Awesome. Appreciate it, y'all.
All right, we're going to hit a quick timeout. The national anthem up next. Wes Mitchell. It's Gamecock Central Day. We just love these guys. He'll join us on the other side. We're also going to get to Julio Jones, Nick Saban. We've got some hoop stuff as well. So everybody hang tight. The JB and Goldwater show driven by Stokes Volkswagen. We'll be right back.
Mike Morgan here for Gamecock Traditions. Baseball is going strong. You'll want to look sharp when you cheer on your Gamecocks. Under Armour, New Era, sideline hats, all with interlocking SC Baseball logo. 18 styles of $10 tees exclusively at Gamecock Traditions. Get on that email list by going to the bottom of the page, enter your email, and always be the first to know about new items as they arrive. You can also add a little Gamecock flair with house signs, garden flags, interior and yard decorations, only at one place, Gamecock Traditions.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
Bourbon and whiskey drinkers of Charleston. Paddock and Whiskey on James Island and the Terrace Shopping Center on Maybank is your home for the finest and rarest bourbon and whiskey drinks in the Lowcountry. This is where I hang out. Go meet my friends Reed and Chris and try one of their exclusive barrel pick bourbons. They have the largest private barrel collection in the state, and let their knowledgeable staff recommend your next pour. PaddockandWhiskey.com. Let not your heart be troubled. Paddock and Whiskey is here for your next double. We're all friends around here. Paddock and Whiskey, proud partners of the JB and Goldwater Show.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the Links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Lowcountry. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit StonoFerryGolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The Links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. StonoFerryGolf.com.
Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Flamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
Show. Live, loud, and online.
Final hour on this Monday afternoon. Welcome back. Power Hour on the JB and Goldwater Show, powered by Wando Power Equipment. Of course, we're driven by our friends up there at Stokes Volkswagen. JB, Darren, and Wes Mitchell. Quickly to the scoreboard. South Alabama is about to win that game against South Florida, Darren.
Wow.
So if that happens, and it's over here in just a minute,
takes a 4 seed off a possible super regional.
Well, they would, yep. Then they'll have to play game 2 this afternoon, and the winner will advance to play Texas.
Have fun.
So there you go. But Mark Calvey, former pitching coach at in Columbia, has got the Jaguars headed in the right direction, no doubt about that. And Mississippi State has reclaimed the lead against Campbell. It is 4-3 in Starkville. All right, there he is. There's old Wesley Mitchell. This weekend, of course, he was probably covering recruiting. There was 6,482 prospects at the football facility. At least it seemed that way. Wes, I was walking through there on Friday after the regional game, and they had, anybody who was there that day had kind of really tapered out. And I was talking to a couple of the staff guys. I said, well, how many people y'all expecting tomorrow? Oh, about 400 something. How the hell do you even look at 400 kids in a camp? Goodness gracious. What'd you see? How you doing? How's your weekend?
I'm good, man. Yeah, it was good to have everybody back out there. I think it's very difficult to imagine how you manage that thing, but a lot of these staffs have it down to a science. You sign everybody in, and you already, for the most part, you already have a pretty good idea of which guys you're looking at and which guys are sort of just there, to get an opportunity to be around a college staff, if you will. And, so you already maybe have some guys circled, and then, you give them a shirt, and, for them, it's the fact they're getting a shirt. For you, it's the fact that it's got a number on the back. So it's very easy. If you look, every single coach is going to have, they're going to have something in their hand tracking all the different guys at the camp and sort of what they need to know about them, basically. So then you do NFL style testing, which is another way to sort of verify. There may be a guy you've never heard of, but if he comes out here, measures in at 6'3", jumps 39 inches, and then runs a 4.4, you're going to be like, all right, we're going to watch. You're going to, circle him. We're going to watch this guy a little bit closer. So it's really there's a science to it, and it's all sort of laid out logistically as far as how they do it. But certainly, the more kids you have, it is a little bit harder to sort of go through it. But you know what? I think just the fact you got kids back out there is awesome now. Not having them last year, you really kind of missed it. So I'm glad that they're back.
So this is, by my math here, this was like the first real weekend, right, under Beamer.
Starting June 1, this past week was the first day that you could have visitors at all. So, that was the first day of unofficial visitors. And then Thursday was the first day of camp. So you had camp on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So you only actually, there's an NCAA rule. There's a limitation. You only have 10 camp days. So for South Carolina, they've now had 3 of their 7, and they'll sort of space the rest of them out throughout June. This coming week is actually Friday and Sunday. So they throw a Sunday in, I guess, in case people just have stuff going on with their schedules. Maybe they couldn't come on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. They're going to add a Sunday in there. So by this next weekend, you will have knocked out 5 of your 10 camp days for the summer.
All right. So 1 to 10 scale, how'd it go on Saturday, you think, for South Carolina?
I think anybody over there would tell you a 10. It's kind of one of those things. Every program in the country probably is going to answer that it was a 10. It's these things.
What do you think? What do you think? Based on your feedback.
I think it was a 10 as well, because you start to get guys on your campus that you've been working really hard to build some relationships with. I mean, to get Antonio Williams in from Dutch Fork and he was an unofficial guy, didn't go through the camp, but you had him on your campus. So to do that, we knew and had reported that he was going to be in June, but it wasn't necessarily clear exactly when that was going to happen. So to go ahead and get that out of the way, he's such a key target for them. I thought that was huge. They had several underclassmen come in that are big time prospects. You had Dylan Lonergan in, who is literally like the 4th quarterback in the country for the 2023 class, big time football and baseball prospect. To go ahead and get him in on day 1 of camp. They had Carson Black in, who is he's sort of their only, for the new staff, their only offered in-state 2023 quarterback at this time. So, he came in June 1, the very first day you could visit. So, I think it was a great start, because you're getting guys in that, can be difference makers. And in order to land them, the first step is to get them on your campus. They've got Jaden Gibson in right now as a receiver from Florida, who's in on an unofficial visit right now. 3 official visitors will be on campus starting today, for their 48-hour stay. So if you're Jessica Jackson in that group, you are busting your tail right now.
Saw her in her office the other night, just, watching movies and stuff like that. I guess she didn't really care. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I did see her in her office, but she wasn't watching movies. So Wes, excuse me, with all of this going on, all right, they're getting a bunch of kids on, like you were just mentioning. These camps are full of players and all these visits and stuff. Kids have been shut out of it basically for a year, right? What are we expecting? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of kids who are like, I need to go see a bunch of places. I actually overheard a parent, I think it was Saturday morning in our hotel. I guess they were staying at the hotel where I was. It was like, where are we going today? Wake Forest. And then we're going where? Duke and NC State, all by Tuesday. I was like, holy moly. But it feels like maybe there's more of that going on. So like, what is this like? I don't know how you compare it to years past, but everybody's basically had a year of being shoved inside and they haven't been able to really go see things in a official capacity. So what's the next couple of weeks look like?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have probably a year's worth of recruiting crammed into a month if you're a prospect. So,
wow.
Most of these kids, not all of them, but a lot of them like to get the process finished before their senior year. And so generally, you know what that means? That means getting to some junior days in January or February, taking an unofficial visit to watch spring practice, something like that. You start to narrow your list down. And for these kids, some of them haven't been able to narrow their list. Some of them, the parent you probably heard, there's a lot of kids who don't have offers yet that, their schedule is probably even more intense because they may say, I need to hit 15 camps this month and go figure out where am I at? Am I the guy that needs to be camping at South Carolina and Clemson and North Carolina and Georgia? Or am I the guy that needs to be camping, at Furman, at Wofford? Where am I in this, pecking order, this tier? So
Great
you
point.
got a lot of that going on. Kids are trying to figure out sort of where they are as far as the fit and who's going to be able to recruit them. And I think the other side of it is you have the kids that already have the offers. They're more in decision mode about where am I going to go. They're meeting these coaches for the first time in person. So I think it's going to be weird, y'all, because there's probably going to be a lot of movement as far as sometimes guys go on the official visits already sort of knowing where they're going to go. It's hard to really know that if you haven't been somewhere before. So I think that'll be something. How much movement is it? There may be, the first official visit, this school may 100% lead for a kid. Then he gets to the second one. Now they lead. Now the third one, now they lead. You always have a bit of that, but I think it's probably increased because of the fact that these kids have never been on these campuses before.
Yeah, it's going to make your job so much fun. By the way, a quick note here. The regional final between Virginia and Old Dominion moved up to 5 o'clock first pitch today. Columbia expecting to get some weather a little bit later on tonight. Good for you, Wes. You'll get your grass watered. You mentioned that a lot of these kids are meeting coaches for the very first time, which these coaches in Columbia are new to all of us. A lot of them are, at least. I know that some of them, Eric Kimry and guys like that, have been around a while, but not in that role. So what type of feedback have you heard about staff interactions with some of these prospects, starting, of course, with Shane Beamer? Has anybody even given you some of that feedback to this point?
Yeah, I've gotten some of that. I think the word is always with Shane Beamer, it's energy. It's just this is a high energy guy, young, excited about the place. He's at camp. He's bouncing around from station to station, from position to position. He's getting in there with the guys a little bit as well. And, I was talking to a parent, who that's sort of where I got that from. He's just like, man, this guy is just, he did like the hand motion. He's like, this guy's just everywhere while he's out here as far as the energy goes, and just being someone who very clearly wakes up every single day excited about where he's at and having full belief, in where he's at. And I think you obviously, you got to have some of that if you're going to try and pull this thing out of where it's at with what you're dealing with as far as your main in-conference competition and your competition in this state. Like, you've got to sort of have a mindset of, I'm willing to run through a wall every day, because I'm not going to just be able to tour somebody around the ops building, show them a couple of other facilities, and then show them the trophy case and sign them. That's not the case at South Carolina. You have to find an edge elsewhere. And I think this staff, their goal is to be as genuine as possible. Their goal is to build the relationships, not just with the kids, but with the family, and accentuate the fact that you can graduate at South Carolina. It's, their percentage as far as graduation rates, I think, has been as high as about anybody for the last, I don't know how many years, but I think that's what you're going to see. But also, I think you have a sense of that elsewhere as well. I'm sure. I think everybody is in a positive place around the country right now. Everybody's excited for football to be back. Everybody's excited for camps to be back. And I think we'll start to have a little bit better feel for where Carolina is at as this month continues.
One of the great reporters, if you want to call him that, at South Carolina, Wes Mitchell, covers South Carolina as well as anybody out there. Gamecock Central 115 on this Monday afternoon. Wes, I heard a really neat story this weekend. And I see you, Clint, and I see you,
Gamecock swag.
Gamecock swag. I'll get to those questions in just a moment. But I heard a really neat story this weekend. I just want to get your thoughts on like what you think this means, because you've been here, right? Spurrier, Muschamp, now Beamer. There's been a lot of changes in and out of the program. And the story that I was told this weekend is there was a big time prospect in town, and they were in there meeting with Coach Beamer in his, well, they call it an office, but apparently it's a condo. I mean, it's massive. And they're in there meeting and Shane's little kids are just running around, running in circles. And he's trying to, he's talking to the family. I'm really sorry about that. They're, oh no, it's no big deal. No, it was very just normal. It's like, hey, yeah, I'm a football coach, but I'm also a dad, and I have to have my kids here for a while. So I'm sorry about that. But apparently the family was like, no, this is great. But what I heard about that was that would never be the case under Will Muschamp. This isn't to disparage Will Muschamp. It's just a different atmosphere, as you've said for months under Coach Beamer. Kids weren't just running around while recruits and their families were in there meeting with the head coach and things like that. What do you think that means?
Yeah, well, I think it's everybody wants to present a family atmosphere when you have families on your campus. So I think if the goal for Shane Beamer and this staff and this just organization that he's put together is, I think if you're going to say that you're going to be a family-oriented place, you have to actually be a family-oriented place. And, I can tell you that, Shane's kid was out there running around at camp, I think all day on Friday, Saturday. I can't remember which day. It's all run together, but actually found some other kids to throw the football with. I saw that were also out there like with their, with their family as well. So, that's pretty common, I think, under this staff. And I think that's what Beamer wants this program to be. That was very common under Steve Spurrier. And I think you credit Miss Jerry Spurrier for having that family touch as far as, but that was very common for all the assistant coaches to have their kids around the program and their families around the program, and for them to be in and out and to be welcomed. Not like, do I have to ask permission to be here? Do I have to ask permission to have my kid here? But for it to be a common thing. And, I think if you look at Shane Beamer's career arc, you probably are taking different pieces. You've been around so many good coaches. You're taking pieces from Frank Beamer. You're taking pieces, certainly on the offensive side from what you learned at Oklahoma. But I would say with Steve Spurrier, it was sort of that family feel, the environment, and the fact that, yes, you have to bust your tail in this business. You have to work hard, but there is maybe a place for your assistant coaches to feel comfortable actually living their life as well. I know a bunch of the assistant coaches were going to the baseball game on Saturday after the camp. So that's something where that matters. And I think it can't be faked, because parents of prospects, eventually you can fake it for a quick visit, right? But eventually, if they're around enough, that can't be faked, because it becomes, people see through that.
Let me ask some listener questions here, Wes. What is your favorite color? No, I'm just kidding. Clint asks, ask Wes, what is his over-under for June commits to South Carolina?
Oh, man, Clint, very hard nearly impossible to predict. And I see Gamecock Swag's next commitment. I'll just add those together, I guess, do them at the same time. And I will say, I think for them to offer a couple of kids this week, Kylie Corton is an in-state kid, first major offer for him. He told me that's his dream school, sort of dream offer. He's a guy I think you'd have to put on a commitment watch, if you will. You look at a DJ Jackson kid from Sumter who picked up an offer from South Carolina, and I think coveted getting an offer from South Carolina. So generally in June, you're looking at a combination of things. Who are the guys that are in state and get new offers that really coveted that offer? So that's two guys right there that I think South Carolina immediately becomes a major factor with, probably the favorite with. Then you're looking at official visits. Who's coming in and who's in that timetable of actually wanting to make a decision. You're always going to have a couple of guys who just probably spring a commitment out there, but a lot of these kids are going to go through the process. I think you could maybe set it at 4 or 5, just because generally kids are going to pop up and commit. But a lot of times you'll have kids on your official visit. They'll privately commit to the staff, and they maybe won't announce it on that day either. So I think the big question will be, how many commitments does South Carolina have by the end of the summer? And how much of this class did they decide to go ahead and fill up? Because that was a trend under Muschamp, was a lot of these classes were getting filled up before the end of the summer. I don't know necessarily if you're going to see it balloon all the way out to that 19, 20, 22 commits or anything like that number we saw maybe a couple times in the past. But I think you could have a really good feel for what this class is going to be by the end of the summer.
What about the transfer portal? Are they done? Or if there's a name out there, say at wide receiver, would they be willing to take somebody out of the portal at this point still?
Yeah, they're definitely not done.
Okay.
They're still working it. I would look at DB. Chris actually had a note on our insider forum there for people who are subscribers about a DB to watch as far as the transfer portal goes. So they're still working it. If a guy can help you, Gamecock Swag mentions the Ole Miss linebacker that South Carolina's looking into out of the portal as well. If a guy can help you at a position of need, ultimately you don't want to have to hit the portal for every need, but where South Carolina is right now, that's kind of what you have to do. And right now, as far as this season, almost pretty much all the high school guys are signed. They know where they're going. So the last place you can sort of, add somebody to your roster right now is the portal. So I think South Carolina is remaining very active there, and rightfully so.
Yeah, there are, again, important notes up at Gamecock Central now. Chris actually has a write-up about some three visitors who are on campus today. You mentioned the defensive back that's in the portal. Already mentioned about the young man leaving Ole Miss. A bunch of that information is available on Gamecock Central. We would encourage you certainly to check all of that out. Let me ask you about a specific name. It's a big one. What about Oscar Delp? He's a guy who we know Carolina is majorly high on. So is everybody. We also know he has some connections to the Midlands. I don't know if you know exactly where they stand right now. That is South Carolina. But if you do, where is that? And what does the future look like for that young man?
Yeah, I think South Carolina's right there with Georgia. To me, those are probably going to be the two that are in it till the end. Clemson is hanging in there. Alabama, he was at Alabama here recently as well. He's a guy that's keeping a very busy June schedule. I think he's going to official to Florida as well. But, South Carolina will get him in on June 25th. That will be sort of towards the end. That's like the final official visit for him as far as this busy June that he's got scheduled. And, they'll pull out all the stops. I think Eric Kimrey's done an outstanding job there of keeping South Carolina in the mix. Trying to explain to him exactly how much they plan to use the tight end within this scheme, and sort of giving him a preview of what he can expect from the tight ends this season as far as the depth they have at that position and how they're going to try to use them all. And lots of connections here. He grew up pulling for South Carolina. He's still got family in the Columbia area, and South Carolina's doing everything they can to take advantage of pretty much any built-in advantage that they had coming in. So, he's the number one tight end in the country on Rivals. They're going to pull out all the stops, and it won't be long. I don't think after he takes this slate of visits in June, this one, I doubt this one extends all the way out to like December or anything like that. He wants to sort of be done with the process, by maybe end of the summer or early fall, something like that. So, we'll have complete coverage of that, of course. I know Craig mentioned that he saw him wearing Clemson and Georgia gear, but that's every single kid in the country right now. You take the visit; these photo shoots it's just part of the visit process now. So you're going to see him in every single jersey at some point on June 25th. That weekend, you'll probably see him post something on Twitter or Instagram in a Gamecock uniform. So that's what all the kids do these days. But that's going to be a true big boy battle to the end. But I expect South Carolina to be in it.
If I hear top tight end recruit in the country, you just said he's your number one on the Rivals board. Are we talking Pitts? Are we talking a different type of frame? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I wouldn't compare him to Pitts. I would say he is more of a complete tight end. Like I call him like dual threat tight ends, a guy that has the ability to go catch the football, can extend defenses down the seam, but it isn't quite Pitts to me was like a wide receiver playing tight end just about. I look at Oscar Delp as someone who can actually line up attached to the line of scrimmage, who can block for you, has a big frame. He already looks like a college-sized kid right now at the tight end position. So he's a little bit more of your kind of traditional tight end as far as a size profile goes. But man, we saw him at Rivals in Atlanta, just effortlessly catches the football, just big, thick, athletic kid. So he's kind of, I'll tell you what, there may be tight ends in the country with more upside, but I don't know if there's a kid in the country that's more of like a sure thing. Like he's one of those guys you just look at and he pretty much checks every box. Like I would be literally floored if this kid was not a successful college football player. Like he just sort of checks every single box that you would look for at that position. And that's why he's so highly rated and highly recruited with everybody that's going after him.
Yeah, somebody just said it reminds me of Zach Ertz. That's exactly what I was thinking. Not on that level. I mean, I'm not trying to compare anybody to a major NFL star, but just the look of like projectability, right? That's exactly what I think. I think that's a great comment there. All right, I do want to ask you real quick. I don't know how much you have on it, but before we let you run, news now that Bruce Shingler has departed the Gamecocks hoops program. He's official at Maryland. So South Carolina has an opening on the basketball staff under Frank Martin. Was that expected? And where, if anywhere, at this point, do we expect them to go with that next hire to replace Coach Bruce Shingler at Carolina?
Yeah, I'll commend Colin Taylor, who actually just had on before me.
I know. I didn't ask him.
Yeah,
he forgot.
He did a really good job. I thought he was tracking that for a while. I would say, I don't remember the timeline, maybe the last week or so, it had gotten to the point that it was expected or something that was possible. So not a surprise when it happened. Probably, if you go back a couple of weeks, it would have been a surprise at that time. But, we'll see. I'm sure, I would think Frank would want to move kind of fast with recruits. They hosted men's basketball had a team camp on Saturday on campus as well. So they had dudes on campus, some really good prospects on campus starting midweek last week as well, and then had that team camp on Saturday. So important time for basketball recruiting as well. I don't have any names right now. I know Colin was trying to check on that. But last I talked to him, he didn't have anything yet either. So I think that's something that we'll be diving into here shortly.
Gamecock Central, that's where you'll want to find it. Make sure you are a subscriber. It is, look, I know they're not playing right now. Baseball, unfortunately, is done. Football doesn't start till September. Hoops, no, they don't start till November. But, boy, there's a lot going on. Carolina's got to figure out the future of the baseball program. Recruiting is as hot as it's been. And now, of course, you got some stuff to look into with Carolina basketball. Be a subscriber to Gamecock Central. That's where you find the great work of Colin Taylor, Wes Mitchell, Chris Clark, and everybody on staff. Hey, man, thanks so much. Really hope you're doing well. We really appreciate it. Great report today, and we'll talk to you here pretty soon.
All right, thanks, guys. You have a good one, okay?
Later.
Yes, sir. There you go. Wes Mitchell with Gamecock Central, and they generally have GC Live coming up at 2 o'clock as well, so keep an eye on that. Here in just a little while. Power Hour is powered by Wando Power Equipment, wandopower.com. We tell you about it all the time because folks come from everywhere to head to Wando Power. You can rent anything as well. Maybe you need a stump grinder or a trailer or a mower, whatever. They come from everywhere just to come down here to the low country. I like to describe it as, don't think about it of, well, I need to drive 2 hours to go buy something. Think about it of, well, I'm going to go to Charleston and maybe eat a quality lunch somewhere, get some good seafood, pick up what I need to pick up, and then head on home. But, of course, if you're in the low country, you don't have to worry about that. You just head to Daniel Island or head to wandopower.com. Tell them what you're looking for. Tell Polk, tell Harrison, those guys, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need, and they'll find it. They'll service it there as well. Wando Power Equipment, the home of the Hustler zero-turn mower Raptor Series. Bigger, stronger, faster. At Wando Power Equipment. I've known them for a long time, and they have been in business for over 30 years. wandopower.com. All right, we're going to hit a quick timeout. When we return, we'll get to Julio Jones. Some news now on Nick Saban to pass along to you as well. We'll get you updated on the Super Regionals and talk a little bit more about the Supers. We've certainly talked a bunch about South Carolina today. We'll circle back to that as it compares itself to what's going on around the country. So hang tight. The final segment on this Monday afternoon on the JB and Goldwater Show up next.
This is Mike Mazzell for Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road with exciting news. It's springtime and we're playing ball. Most dealerships don't have any inventory, but at Stokes Volkswagen we do. So we're playing ball on every new Volkswagen in stock. Every new Volkswagen available with zero down. Qualified buyers can sign and drive with interest-free financing for 60 months. Remember, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road is the fastest, easiest way to sell your car and get the most money for your trade. Plus, we'll take any trade in any condition, paid off or not. Is your credit in a slump? Strike two! If you've got $500 down and you make at least $2,000 per month, our lenders can get you approved. So if you want to strike out, that's okay. But if you want to hit a home run and save on a new Volkswagen, Stokes Volkswagen on Ashley Phosphate Road or StokesVW.com.
$1,666 per month per 1,000 borrowed for 60 months at 0% APR with zero down. Plus tax tag. Includes $499.50 administration fee. Subject to BCI credit approval. Expires month end.
Peace and love at Stokes Speed Dub.
Wando Power Equipment, the trusted home of Hustler zero-turn residential and commercial mowers. There is nobody more trusted in South Carolina than our friends from Wando Power Equipment. They've been providing elite commercial and residential service for over 30 years. Landscape Services have turned to their selection of Hustler zero-turn mowers like the Raptor. Bigger, stronger, faster, and the most durable Raptor Hustler has ever designed. Located on Daniel Island and online at wandopower.com. Wando Power Equipment, owned by the Price family, the home of Hustler zero-turn mowers, rentals, service, and specializing in family and friendship.
Shrimping season's back. That means local caught shrimp. That's right. Local caught shrimp back on the menu at the Dog and Duck. All three locations, Bell Hall, Park West, and Clements Ferry Road, now featuring once again local caught hand-breaded shrimp, plus other daily specials like the Game Day Burger every Wednesday, Rib Night on Friday, rotating taps all the time, and all the TVs you can possibly imagine for whatever you want to watch. The Dog and Duck in Bell Hall, Park West, and on Clements Ferry Road.
Hey, South Carolina, what's going on? This is Patrick Davis, and you are listening to my friends JB and Darren on the JB and Goldwater Show.
All right, 1:34. Welcome back. Monday afternoon on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen. If you're hungry, head to dbscheesesteaks.com. Check out that menu. Tell me your mouth doesn't water, because it will. If you're going to be riding through West Ashley and you're in the Low Country, stop in and grab yourself a cheesesteak. And the Boardwalk fries, they come with the Old Bay seasoning. They're on every delivery app available, dbscheesesteaks.com. All right, to the scoreboard we go. The handy-dandy college baseball scoreboard today. Hopefully, weather permitting, all of the super regional matchups will be finalized. Right now in Starkville, it is 4-3, Mississippi State leading Campbell. That was 3-2 after the first inning down there. It's like last night I cut on what game was that? It was like 7-4 in the first inning. Southern Miss and Ole Miss. I mean,
someone put up a 7 spot. I'll tell you what, I watching the Gamecocks games, and then when they were not playing, I just had it on the squeeze play. I mean, that thing was great, just the whip around that they had in studio. Yeah, you're right. You texted me that. I don't think I texted you back. Sorry about that. I forgot. Yeah, that's what I had. I wasn't paying attention to it. I didn't really even use my phone all weekend. I was on vacation mode. Vacation mode for me. I'll say this. Let me tell you this. I took, Darren, you'll laugh at me, but it's been a while. I mean, I haven't been to Columbia since the fall for whatever reason. And it's been a while since I've walked around campus. So I got up Saturday morning. Generally, I stay with friends and stuff up there, and I didn't this weekend. I stayed basically right on campus, almost in a hotel. And I got up Saturday morning, and I knew I had all day. I took over a 2-hour walk around campus, around everything on campus. I'd already been at the facility on Friday night, so I didn't go over to Williams-Brice or anything like that. But everywhere, from every academic building, which most of them I'd really never seen. I was like, oh, so that's what they call that building. Who knew? But it was the neatest thing. And there's really nobody on campus on a Saturday in June. So it was just really awesome. I just didn't pick up my phone all weekend. You probably noticed I didn't really tweet or anything. I just didn't care to. So that was nice to get away. It's a mental break. It's good to get away.
Yeah, it was a mental break of all mental breaks. I needed it in the worst way, but it was great. It was great to see it. So yeah, I wasn't paying attention to a lot of that stuff. I was looking at the scoreboard here and there. Speaking of which, South Alabama 4-0. So they've got the next game coming up here in just a little bit. They're going to play it immediately after 2:15 start time between South Florida and South Alabama. The winner will move on to the Super Regionals. That is Mark Calvey, former pitching coach at South Carolina through 2010. Of course, won a national championship as part of that program in Columbia, and looking to knock off the South Florida Bulls. Who would have thunk it, right? The championship in Gainesville features South Florida and South Alabama, no Florida and no Miami.
One of the bigger upsets of the tournament to this point, not just them going out Florida, but how they went out. I mean, it's one of the more eye-opening negative stories from the early, 2 days of the tournament.
Well, excuse my French, let's just call it like we see it. They got their ass beat. That's what happened.
Yes, they did.
And pretty much Kevin O'Sullivan said as much afterwards as well. It wasn't like South Carolina where they just couldn't get a hit here and there, and it had a couple bad breaks and a bad call, and just all that culminated into this frustrating weekend. They got their rear ends beat at home. The thing with that, and we'll get to Saban here in a minute, but the thing with that though, Darren, is LSU. I had somebody ask me yesterday if I thought this was real. I don't know. I have no insight into those programs, but every fiber in my baseball brain believes that LSU, if Kevin O'Sullivan is on their radar, they will throw the house at him. It's LSU.
Whoever's on their radar, they're going to go throw the house at. Now, this is the popular name, right? And I have no inside information. All I can do is regurgitate what we've all seen, that he's a popular name being mentioned for the LSU job. Okay, fine. So did the last 3 days change anything? Did getting wiped out at their place in a regional change anything? Because it's got to at least creep into your mind to some degree, right?
Nah. He spent well over a decade building that program into maybe the powerhouse in the country. They've been to Omaha like 7 of the last 10 years. Doesn't change a thing to me. Makes me want him more. Actually, it's the perfect time to want him because maybe some idiot over there, which it's not the administration, but some idiots, and every fan base has them, are going, fire that O'Sullivan, fire that guy. Okay, no problem. We'll take him. We'll take him at a discounted rate too, if you don't mind paying him. For me, no, it doesn't change a thing for me. I could never in my wildest dreams ever base Kevin O'Sullivan's future or past on one regional weekend. The only time it's happened like that on his watch.
That's fair. That's fair. And it's very consistent with what you and we've said on this show about really every sport, right? You're not going to take 2 games here and toss my resume in the trash because of a stretch that was just really bad.
Yeah, no. Well, I go back to, and I see that comment from J.I. Gamecock. We'll get to that in a minute. But I go back to 2009, really, with Coach Tanner. I mean, South Carolina goes to Greenville, North Carolina, loses in the regional. Fire Tanner, fire Tanner, fire Tanner, fire everybody, right? Fire everybody. Fire God. Come back in 2010, gets off to a 6-4 start, loses that Sunday game against Clemson at home at Founders, 19-6. Fire Tanner, fire Tanner, fire Tanner. He's horrible. He's lost it. Well, they won the national championship. So I mean, people don't know. It's just, and then guess what? You're not gonna believe this is shocking. They actually won the next one too, and then the year after that, they played for it. It's crazy, but they should have fired him probably after the Clemson series in 2010. Why wouldn't LSU go after Mike Bianco of Ole Miss? I don't know. I like Mike Bianco, always have. He was a catcher at LSU, great coach, been around a long time. Golly, he might be the dean of the SEC coaches in college in baseball. I'm trying to think. I think he's been there longer than Maneri. I mean, I'm pretty sure he has. Van Horn maybe has been there longer than Bianco. Those guys have been around a while. I'd have to go back and look at it. Sullivan's probably up there, and everybody else, I think, is more recent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, right.
Five,
Yeah.
like everyone else is 5-10 years in that range.
Yeah, I think so. So he's been around a long time. With Mike Bianco, has he? I think it's fair to ask the question. I don't know that I would agree one way or another. I'd have to go back and really look at it. But the question, maybe has he underperformed or underachieved a little bit at Ole Miss? It's a beautiful facility. It's a hell of a fan base. You're in the SEC,
right? Or plateaued. I mean, you got to your point, and okay.
Well, I mean, if you ask it today, right? I mean, okay, so Ole Miss has Southern Miss. Let's say they don't get out of their home regional. You're not making a change, but I think it's just another frustrating finish for the Rebels. They don't go to Omaha a lot. They have been under Mike Bianco, but they're not a consistent. Like when you think about the SEC in the last 20 years, and you think about Omaha, well, Florida, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, LSU, even though lately it hasn't been as much, but LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the four that you always think about, even though Carolina, believe it or not, boys and girls, hadn't been there since 2012. They won 2 national championships. They went 6 times in that span. So you still think about them as an SEC Omaha team, and it's kind of interesting when they don't get there, right? So
in the grand scheme, right, it's not that long. It's like how the broadcast started on maybe Friday with Mike Monaco, who was play-by-play, saying it's 2 of the last 8 teams to win a national championship. So you put it that way, it's not that long ago at all. And Ole Miss probably isn't thrilled with the rise of Lamonis and Mississippi State coinciding with this either.
No, absolutely not. And Chris Lamonis is in the golden chair in college baseball right now, and the most immaculate facility that has ever been built in this sport. It's not close. I know South Carolina fans Founders Park is top notch. It's one of the best parks you could ever dream of. But it ain't Mississippi State. It's just not. None of them are. Neither's Baum in Arkansas, and that place is ridiculous. It's not. It's just not the dude. It is just something special. So that's the scoreboard. Real quick, let me get to the Saban news here. He has signed a contract extension. Nick Saban has through at least February 28th of 2029. So through the 2028 season. He's going to be, how old will he be then? 77?
77 was what the basically the headline said. If he wants, that's the tweet I'm writing right now, he can coach until he's 77, if not longer.
$8.425 million is the base salary. It will increase annually through the length of the contract. So by the time it's all done, basically he's making $9-10 million a year more. The question is, does he go through 2029? I still don't see it.
Dude, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in 2023, right? And I'm a little bit younger than Nick Saban. 2029, can you see Nick Saban on the sidelines in 2029?
No.
Is I can't see that.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think it's a great move by Alabama because as you've said before, your expectations now are in a very small group of programs. Clemson, Ohio State, and then whoever else kind of jumps in and out. I mean, Georgia and LSU are right there. And there's some other Oregon. There's some other programs out there, right, that you would kind of maybe cycle in or out of that 4th or 5th team in that conversation. But I think we can honestly have the conversation that Alabama, Ohio State, and Clemson are an elite company, right? That's one little group that they win national championships, are in the thing every year, whatever.
Yep.
So you have to, like, if you're recruiting against them, and then of course just the SEC, Auburn and Florida and LSU or whoever in this league, you got to show stability. You cannot have the conversation of Saban's probably on the backside. Like, you have to get away from that. So you invest, and that's what they've done. I think it's a brilliant move, but I don't see him there in 2029.
It's just as much of it is for Nick Saban's wallet. Like, he doesn't need the added security, right? It's not like he's going anywhere until he tells Alabama, I'm going somewhere. So maybe financially speaking, it protects Alabama a little, but realistically, he's not leaving Alabama to go to the pros. He's not leaving Alabama for another coaching gig. Is he going to be there in 2029? Is he going to be there 8 more years, 9 more? I don't see it. I could be wrong. I doubt it.
Is Shane Beamer at South Carolina in 2028?
I can't answer that question right now. And nobody can, right? Like, I have no idea. Great. There's a whole lot of positivity out there around recruiting and camps, and he's this super nice, upbeat type guy who's all around, and that's awesome. No, I have no idea what they're going to look like. I have no clue.
I think he is, but I like it. Let's play the game. All right, let's just play the game. Let's have some fun. This is totally off script. I hope people know we did not put this on the agenda today. All right. Saban, he's now under contract at Alabama through the season of 2028, 2029, based on the contract language, which is February 28th, I think, 2029. All right, so Saban, 2028. All right, let's have some fun. Kirby Smart, is he at Georgia in 2028?
Yes.
You think he is?
Yes.
I don't think he is. I don't think. I'm not saying he's not successful. I think Georgia literally gets to the same point they did with Mark Richt. Oh, we need someone to get us over the hump.
I think he is closer to getting over that hump than maybe some realize, even though he's coming into the year with a top 2, 3, 4 team. So I think they are close enough to a major win, as in at least getting to a championship game, if not winning one. So yeah, I think he's there in 2028 or 20, whichever.
Okay. I think Beamer's here in 2028. I mean, that's 7 years. I think he's at South Carolina, but that's me, and everybody didn't have to agree with that. What about Dan Mullen?
No.
I don't think he's there in 2020. What year is this? 21? I don't think he's there.
Yeah, this will be 21. Yeah.
I don't think he's there in 2023.
I agree, because especially if things aren't wonderful this year. Yeah, he's already been pretty public about exploring the NFL, about being frustrated with the changes in college athletics. I don't think Mullen's there in 2028. No.
Again, I don't even think he's there in 2 years. Josh Heupel at Tennessee, is he there in 2028?
Boy, they hope so. But I'm going to put no.
Dude,
so
I don't think he is either.
Here's why this is different for me than the Beamer thing. With the Beamer thing, I have no track record of a head coach. I have zero idea, right? At least with Heupel, I have some sort of an idea. And my idea, for whatever reason, I don't think he lasts at Tennessee until 28. And I'm not convinced he gets Tennessee to where they want to be by then.
Yeah, you can't trust it. I mean, you haven't been able to trust it since Fulmer retired or resigned or whatever you want to call it. I mean, you can't trust it till you trust it till you see it actually happen, right? Yeah, I'm with you. I don't agree.
Yep.
I don't think I don't know. There might, you know what? I'll say this. This might blow your mind a little bit. I think the one coach in the league that I truly believe, or let's say on the West, yeah, they'll be there, I think is Jimbo Fisher. I think he's going to be there a while.
I agree with that, because I think it's a great spot. I think he is positioning himself and the program to be on par, whether it is or isn't, or in the view of fan bases and recruits, on par with Texas and Alabama, right? He's taken direct shots at Alabama in the last couple of weeks. I think that's his mindset, that he wants to be like a Nick Saban-ish of Texas A&M.
Yeah, I think he's there. I think he'll be there for, I don't know, another 7, 8, 9 years. He'll have a really good run. Let's remember he's on a guaranteed contract as well. Not that they don't have the money to pay it if they needed to get rid of him, even though we've just gone through a pandemic where they lost a bunch of money, but apparently they all had a little bit of insurance, just so folks know that. But I think he's there. Yeah, I think he's there. Anyways, it's interesting. Nick Saban getting extended. Now, what about Julio Jones? Will he be at Alabama in 2028?
I don't know if they're going to allow him back. I think he could be a Super Bowl champion by then. Well, I'll say by 2029. I don't know if you said 21 or 29. I think he'll be a Super Bowl champ. I think Tennessee is loaded.
Boy, they are going to be something to see, aren't they? I mean, they have done a brilliant job of putting together some talent. You got to wonder what the future of the Falcons looks like. But yeah, Derrick Henry, AJ Brown, Julio Jones. Are you kidding me?
Did you see AJ Brown's tweet? I know you were pretty much off the radar. AJ Brown said, "Please excuse my language." He had a picture with all of them in Tennessee uniforms because that went out pretty quickly of Julio in a Tennessee uniform. And he said, "Please excuse my language. Y'all done effed up," in his tweet. And he put the three of them together, basically saying, rest of the league, you're done. And he's the point.
From a physical specimen standpoint, is there a better trio of players in the NFL?
No, maybe the Browns running backs, but no.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's amazing. AJ Brown, I mean, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. That is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Nashville, I'm sure, is ready for some football, but Falcons, guess it was coming when he said it on national TV.
I did see there was a report out that he did not know. He did not know that he was on the air. There's a report from Awful Announcing saying that there could be ramifications from the Fox side of things because it aired on FS1, and that is a television partner of the NFL. So if Atlanta is upset enough that it happened, they could lean on Fox, and this would not be unprecedented. And Fox could then lean on, Atlanta could lean on the NFL, and NFL could then lean on Fox. Now, would you really ever see it in the public? No. But are there avenues that they can pursue? Absolutely that there are.
Well, I think they should anyways. Or at least, I mean, what's happened with Shannon Sharp? Isn't he still on the air every day?
I believe so.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that he's suspended. I'm not regularly watching that show.
No, I don't either. I wonder what those conversations were like, because if he does that again to somebody, they could be popped big time, and they don't want to deal with that.
If it becomes, I don't know, again, the exact law, right? But I believe in California, I'm almost certain of this. I know it's true in many states, and I believe it's true in California. It's the same as recording. You can't have a secret recording of someone. It is illegal, if not illegal, super unethical, but I believe illegal in California to have someone on the air without their prior consent and knowledge. So then if Julio Jones, I believe he's probably the only one who can actually go take this course of action. But if he wanted to take legal action, he probably could.
Yeah, amazing stuff. Quick update. It is delayed in Starkville, 5-3 lead there for Mississippi State over Campbell. We will certainly keep our eyes on that throughout the afternoon. If the Bulldogs lose that game, they'll have to turn around and play again tonight. It'll be later than that now. It was going to be a scheduled 4:00 first pitch, but it would probably be tonight now in Starkville. South Alabama did win, so they forced another one. So Mark Calvey and the Jaguars making a bid for the Super Regionals. We'll see if they can accomplish that feat a little bit later on. It looks like that will be a 2:15-ish first pitch, I believe. I'll have to go double check that. But coming up here in just a little while, the rest of the Super Regional schedule, Darren, Southern Miss and Ole Miss, that one is in a delay as well. Weather's coming through the entire Magnolia State, so we'll have to keep our eyes peeled over there. ODU and Virginia moved up, if you missed that, to 5 o'clock. 5 o'clock this afternoon, ODU and Virginia and Columbia in the championship of that regional. Nebraska and Arkansas tonight at 7. That would be what an upset that would be if Nebraska can get through the Razorbacks at Baum. Are you kidding me? If there was one shoe-in, it was Arkansas moving into this sucker.
And a Big Ten team doing it?
Yeah. Are you kidding? Nebraska, a proud baseball program. So we'll see. ESPN2, 7 o'clock tonight. Late, 10 o'clock first pitch, Irvine and Stanford. Irvine was kind of my Cinderella, too, to get to Omaha. They'll have a shot at it today, or at least to take the next step at Sunken Diamond. Again, 10 o'clock first pitch tonight on ESPNU, and also at 10 o'clock, Oregon and LSU on ESPN2. How about the Bayou Bengals heading west? And matter of fact, anybody want to know why people could pick on the SEC all you want to? Anybody want to know why everybody loves the SEC and everybody gives preference to the SEC, benefit of the doubt to the SEC? Well, let me tell you why. Because LSU had more fans in Eugene, Oregon than Gonzaga did from Spokane, Washington. That's why people love the SEC. That's why places like Columbia, yeah, you'll get a regional because you're going to do what you did on Saturday night. And even in an average day, they're still going to get 4,500 in there like they did yesterday. The place is still jumping.
Yeah, they're looking from an area, though, and traveling from an area, too. They wouldn't have had that much if they were going diagonally across the country if these weren't the stakes.
I don't believe that because LSU is still going to have a few hundred people in Omaha this year because they just go every year, even if they're not there.
Decent crowd, but it wouldn't be this swarm of guys.
Yeah, I don't know. I disagree with you, man. LSU travels. They always have with baseball. And matter of fact, Darren, if Carolina or something like that went to the Northwest, I'd probably go just to go see it. I've never been. I mean, I've been to Wyoming, but I've never been like Oregon or Washington or something. I think it'd be a great trip.
I bet there'd be a couple thousand Gamecock fans that went out there. Yeah, and then obviously they're not all coming from Columbia, so there's some that's easier to get there.
Yeah, well, they ain't going anywhere now because it's over. We'll talk more about Carolina baseball tomorrow. Mike Morgan will be joining us on our program, and we'll look back and look ahead. I would expect over the next few days, there's probably going to be some things coming out of Columbia about the future of the Gamecock baseball team, players, and things of that, things like that. Mm-hmm. So let's just certainly keep our eyes on it, and we'll make sure that we fuss and discuss around here. And of course, we will have plenty on the Super Regionals moving forward as well. Believe it or not, it's June, but there is a lot to get to with football over the next few weeks. We really hope you'll be hanging around our program. We're fired up, just a couple of months away from really being right in the thick of it. It is National Boone Day.
Boone.
It commemorates for Boone.
All right, so the Daniel Boone Inn up at App State.
That's right. Which is Boone, North Carolina.
I got a youngster on this street is named Boone.
I love it. That's what Eric Church named one of his sons, by the way. It is also National Chocolate Ice Cream Day.
Yes.
Sign me up. Absolutely. Thanks to the staff at Gamecock Central, Wes Mitchell and Colin Taylor. Certainly appreciate that. Looking forward to being back tomorrow at noon. Good to see and hear from all of you today. We hope you have a marvelous Monday afternoon. Thanks to Darren Goldwater. And we'll see you tomorrow at noon right here on the JB and Goldwater Show, driven by Stokes Volkswagen.